The Steps Hip Spica Care DVD is made for parents and carers of children in hip spica cast. They are a series of mini videos which cover aspects of looking after a child in a cast. The videos are examples of how real families coped with everyday tasks of looking after a child in a hip spica. They are not meant to be fully comprehensive and cannot tell you everything you will need to know about hip spica care, but hopefully they will reassure you that solutions can be found to many practical problems. Remember that it is best to contact your healthcare professional if you have a problem you cannot solve. Parents, carers and healthcare professionals have reviewed these videos.
So when you're going into hospital, it's basically taking things that are easy to put her in, such as this type of thing, which are brilliant. These go up to age 3. It's just a summer romper suit basically, which press studs at the bottom. Great for when they actually get home as well, because the movability in those is excellent. You can keep everything, the nappy keeps on easier with this as well. So, and they're a nice soft t-shirt material, and when that's against the skin at the top, it's not rubbing on anything. It's not going to rub on any of the plaster either. So that's we found that these are really good, and you can get these for boys and girls. You need to be taking with you lots of things for washing. You need to take in, like I say, things that are familiar to her but new. And what we did take in, which we invested in this time, because obviously she's nearly 2 this time, we bought a portable DVD player. So, you know, when you're going into hospital, things that they're familiar with, but things that are new to them.
I took far too much in because I just thought I'll take everything in and wasn't too sure what to take. But I think as a rule of thumb, you can't really tell clothing-wise exactly what size they're going to need until they come out and they're in the cast. I think I got a couple of different sizes, and I got the next size up and the size up from that, but I think I could have just done with the next size up really. But to be honest, in hospital I didn't need that much stuff. She was in overnight, so she had the hospital gown on at night. So the only clothes really I needed was for her to go home. So I think so long as you've got one dress, particularly obviously for girls, one dress that's nice and big and that you know it'll definitely go over the cast, I think you should be all right with that. I took a load of toys in, but again, she didn't really need loads of those. She was quite stimulated with what was going on, and just there was the TV and she kind of watched In the Night Garden and her programmes. And then obviously at the evening time you had visitors and things. So toys wasn't a real issue, and they do have the play therapists at the hospital who dealt with that, and they could have provided toys, but we didn't really need it. Talking about myself sleeping in hospital, I know I didn't, because I didn't really think about it beforehand, but a lot of people take in pillows just because the camp beds aren't terribly comfortable, so you want to try and make them as comfortable as you possibly can. So people take pillows, and some for the children as well. Again, I didn't take my own pillows in for her, but some people do, and it will help the child feel like they're a bit home more rather than in hospital. With regard to food in the hospital for myself, I wish now that I'd taken some food in, possibly like microwave meals or something, because they did have a microwave in the parents' room, but I ended up eating the hospital food, and you just feel like you're eating rubbish food rather than anything healthy. With regard to food for Lily, I did take some jars in, and I did take some of her milk and everything in, which I did find good, but I also used the hospital food that was provided for the children, which again they had a good span of food. So even though she was only probably 9 or 10 months when she was in there, there was still some food on the hospital trolley that she could have. But I did take my own yogurts and things, even though they did provide it. With regard to feeding as well, I actually took in the cartons of formula rather than taking the powder, because I just thought then all I had to do was have a bottle and the carton and empty the carton in, rather than having to make up full formula feeds in the parents' room. It was just a lot easier. Going for the anaesthetic after there was the worst thing of it. Once that was over with, everything got better. The thought of going down with it, I don't think I realised how awful I'd feel, but it was horrible when she was going to sleep and she was crying and they were putting the gas on, but it was over very, very short time, and then you're kind of gone, and then it was the wait in between when she was having the surgery, it was quite upsetting, but then it seemed to be over quite quickly. So I think that, I would say, out of the whole thing is the worst part, and I don't think you can get away from that. It is going to be awful. You can't have your child going through that and you not feel some kind of pang of upset, and because obviously she was a little bit distressed going out because she's got a mask on her face. But I think in the scheme of things, you have to go through that to make her better. So it was all, everything was worth it. So I thought when I first saw her in the plaster I'd be really upset, but I actually was just so relieved she was all right that I just wanted to hold her. So fortunately the theatre staff just helped her onto my knee, and I just held her and cuddled her. And the plaster, yes, it was quite cumbersome to start with, but I think I just wanted my little girl, and she was great and she was fine, and that kind of just, I think it was afterwards really that the plaster hit me, when you suddenly think about what you've got to do with it. But no, initially the plaster I don't know, I kind of saw past it really, and I just wanted to hold my little girl. So Lily needed not loads of pain relief because they actually didn't have to surgically go in and operate. They'd managed to do it just under general anaesthetic, but she did have some pain relief afterwards. The main problem we had was that Lily hates taking medicines, so we struggled to get it down at, whereas other children don't mind taking the medicines because they do taste nice, but Lily's just a little bit awkward in that sense. She was only in overnight in hospital, and she went home the following day after they did a CT scan of her hip to make sure everything was okay. We were aware beforehand, before the operation, that she couldn't go home, obviously, if everything wasn't right, and that we didn't have a car seat. Fortunately, we did have a car seat, and we'd got a car seat that she could fit in. Physio or OT, I think, in the hospital checked that to make sure that she could fit in it. They also checked she could fit into a pram. But had we not had a car seat, then the hospital would have provided transport for us to go home.
Okay, when Amelia first came home, first week, she did get quite horrific cramps in the plaster. We found that she was waking quite upset, seemed to be in a bit of pain. She had paracetamol and ibuprofen for that, and it settled down probably in about a week's time. But again, it is something that you need to be aware of. But she's obviously quite fine now. Again, it happens obviously when they first go in the plaster, and then when the plaster's taken off, and then when they have the plaster, or when they have the plaster rechanged. Obviously, things are slightly different, so you get slightly different positions once they've been in the plaster after the plaster change. So you always get the cramps for that first week of going into plaster and coming out of the plaster. So it is something to be aware of, but it does wear off.
There are lots and lots of sites that you can look at on the internet, and I must admit that before Bethan went for her operation, I did hit the Google button and type in Salter osteotomy just to find out, a rough idea as to what the procedure involved and what x-rays and CT scans and how long she'd be in plaster, and what the success rate of the operation was. And to be very honest, I actually turned it off because I found it quite frightening. It was quite overwhelming. There were so many sites, especially from the States, and everyone seemed to say something different. And I actually found it, even with a medical background, quite intimidating, because it was a lot of different advice that was being given. So by all means, go and have a see, but the best source of information as to what's going to happen to your child is certainly going to be the surgeon and the team that's looking after them. And to realise that, even within that particular hospital, surgeons may differ. And even with a particular surgeon, he may spend advice for one child to be in plaster for 8 weeks, another child for 10 weeks, another for 12. Every case is individual. So, don't get yourself absolutely sort of het up about the sort of smaller details, and you don't be scared to ask for help and advice, and the surgeon really is the person to go for that help and advice, or his team, so the specialist nurses. Remember, you are not alone. When you want information, advice and support, our helpline team are here to help you. No matter how big or small your concern, please email or telephone our helpline. Get instant access to information 24 hours a day via our website, where you can download our advice leaflets. You can also visit our online chat forum, which provides a fantastic resource of helpful tips and practical advice written by parents who are coping with a child affected by hip dysplasia.